Most men think women fall for muscles, money, or charm. But the truth? It's the little things you say, the words that touch her soul, not just her skin, that make you unforgettable. Want to know what actually makes her heart skip a beat? Let's talk about it. Every man tells her she's beautiful. They say it when she walks into a room, when she posts a picture, when she does her hair a certain way. And sure, she smiles and says thank you because it's polite, because it's expected, because deep down, we all want to feel desired. But that compliment, it floats. It never lands. It never stays. Because it's been said too many times by too many people who only saw the surface and never bothered to look deeper. But then you come along and you don't just tell her she's pretty. You tell her something else. You say, "You have a presence that calms the chaos in me." Now suddenly, you've stopped her in her tracks. She pauses. She replays it because that, she hasn't heard before. That's not about how she looks. That's about who she is. And that difference, that's everything. There's something sacred about being seen, not for what you show the world, but for the quiet energy you carry when no one is looking. You're not complimenting her hair or her lips. You're complimenting the atmosphere she brings into your life. You're saying, "You make me feel safe, still, centered." And that, for a woman, is rare. Because too often, she's the one calming everyone else's chaos. She's the one carrying emotional burdens, diffusing tension, holding it all together. Very few people notice. Even fewer say anything. But you do. And when you do, it speaks to the woman inside of her who just wants to be held. Not physically, but emotionally. The one who's tired of being the strong one, tired of performing, tired of putting on a brave face. You reach that woman, the one beneath the armor, and remind her that her very being has value, that even in her silence she speaks, that even in her stillness she heals. And the beautiful thing is, when a woman hears this kind of compliment, it bypasses the part of her that's used to filtering flattery. It goes straight to her soul. It disarms her. Not because it's romantic, not because it's poetic, but because it's true. And women feel truth. They know when you're saying something that came from deep observation, when your words aren't rehearsed, but real. You see, there's a difference between telling a woman what she wants to hear and telling her what only you could have seen. And when you say, "You calmed the chaos in me," it shows her that you're not just watching her, you're experiencing her. You're in tune with how she makes you feel. That means you're present. That means you're emotionally aware. And that means you're not just another man throwing words at her, hoping one will stick. You're paying attention. That matters. It's not about sounding deep. It's about being genuine. Maybe she doesn't say much. Maybe she simply sits next to you, quietly sipping her drink or listening to music, and somehow the air feels lighter. Maybe you didn't realize it at first, but when you leave her presence, you feel less anxious, more grounded, less like you're at war with the world. That's not nothing. That's real. And when you acknowledge that, you give her a gift, the gift of being recognized for something she wasn't even trying to do. That's the kind of compliment she remembers, the kind she holds on to when she's alone, the kind that replays in her mind, not because it boosted her ego, but because it affirmed her energy, the kind that makes her look at you and wonder, "How did he see that in me?" And from that moment, something shifts. You're not just another admirer. You're the man who made her feel emotionally understood. And believe me, once you've touched a woman there, in the place that few ever reach, she won't forget you. Because beauty fades, charm comes and goes, but the man who calms her storm without even trying, the man who sees the softness behind her strength, the grace behind her effort, the calm beneath her chaos, that man lives in her memory, long after the moment has passed. Most men overlook the power of a woman's mind. They chase the curve of her body, the sweetness of her smile, the sway of her hips, but they rarely pause long enough to notice the brilliance behind her words. They miss the way her thoughts move, quick, sharp, curious. They hear her, but they don't listen. They respond, but they don't reflect. And so she learns over time to keep that side of her hidden, to smile, nod, play along, because it's easier than being ignored. But then you say something different. You say, the way your mind works is honestly magnetic. And just like that, the atmosphere between you shifts. You've told her something deeper than a compliment. You've shown her that her thoughts are attractive, that her intellect pulls you in, that she's more than just what's visible. And in a world that constantly reduces her to appearances, that single line feels like a revolution. Because for a woman, being seen as smart, as insightful, as intellectually alive, that's not just validation. That's intimacy. That's a connection that goes far beyond looks. You've taken a step most don't even think to take. You've told her, I value the way you think. And that opens a door to a part of her most people never reach. She might not say it, but she craves that. Craves to be mentally stimulated, to be challenged in a way that's not confrontational but curious. She wants someone who doesn't just want her, someone who wants to understand her. And when you notice how her ideas form, when you acknowledge the way she expresses herself, when you're captivated by her curiosity, she starts to feel emotionally safe around you. Not because you agreed with her, but because you noticed her. You see, so many women have been interrupted, dismissed, talked over, shrunk. So when you lean in and compliment her mind, not just the content of what she's saying, but the way her brain moves, you're giving her permission to expand, to unfold, to speak freely without fear of being reduced. And when a woman feels that kind of freedom with you, she begins to open in ways she usually hides. It's not about pretending to be impressed. It's not about flattery. It's about presence. Genuine, undivided attention. Maybe you notice the way she connects ideas that most people miss. Maybe you hear her ask questions no one else thinks to ask. Maybe there's a softness in how she explains complex things, or a quiet passion in the way she defends what she believes in. Whatever it is, when you tell her you see it, and not only that, but that it's magnetic, you're telling her that her mind has gravity. And that kind of compliment doesn't just make her smile. It makes her feel seen in a place that's often starved, the place that wants to be celebrated for who she is, not just how she appears. It reminds her that she's not too much, that her intelligence isn't intimidating, it's attractive, that her voice has weight and you want to hear it. And here's the beautiful part. Once you touch that space in her, once she trusts that she can be fully herself around you, unfiltered, curious, passionate, she starts to associate you with emotional safety. You become the space where she doesn't have to shrink to be liked. And that feeling, it's unforgettable. Most men try to impress women with their own intelligence. They talk too much. They correct her. They dominate the conversation. But a wise man, he listens, he observes, he learns her mind like it's art, because it is. And when you treat it that way, you become something she rarely finds. A man who honors her intellect and holds space for it without fear or competition. So when you say, the way your mind works is magnetic, what you're really saying is, I see you, I admire you, and I'm drawn to what makes you uniquely you. No comparison, no ranking, just raw appreciation for the beauty of her mind. And in that moment, you stand out. Because while others looked at her and saw a body, you looked closer and saw a universe. There's something incredibly powerful about being noticed for the things you weren't even trying to show. You see, most people only compliment what's obvious. They'll tell her dress is nice, her smile is cute, her laugh is sweet. And yes, those compliments have their place. They're appreciated, even flattering, but they rarely reach the part of her that longs to be seen for more. Because deep down, what touches a woman most is when someone sees the details, the little things she thought no one would notice. Like when you say, I love how passionate you get when you talk about something you care about. That's not a surface level compliment. That's an observation. That means you were paying attention, not just to what she was saying, but to how she came alive while saying it. It means you noticed the spark in her eyes, the way her tone shifted, the way her hands moved. It means you saw her not in the way the world demands she presents herself, but in the way she naturally is when she forgets she's being watched. And that moment, when she realizes you saw her in that raw, passionate, unfiltered state, is the moment you connect with her on a deeper level. Because what you're complimenting isn't rehearsed. It isn't something she curated or carefully displayed. It's real. And when a woman feels seen in her realness, she feels safe. Not just with you, but in herself. She feels like she doesn't have to dim her light to be loved. You'd be surprised how many women shrink themselves every day, not because they want to, but because they've learned that being too much makes people uncomfortable, too emotional, too intense, too ambitious, too expressive. So she tones it down. She softens her voice. She limits her opinions. She keeps her excitement in check. Because the last time she got passionate, someone rolled their eyes or told her to calm down. And slowly she learns to tuck those parts of herself away. But when you come along and say, the way your eyes light up when you talk about your dreams, it's honestly one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen, you're doing something rare. You're giving her permission to be fully expressed. You're telling her that her fire doesn't burn you, it draws you in. That kind of compliment doesn't just make her feel good in the moment, it lingers. It makes her want to open up more, share more, feel more, because now she knows it's safe. And the truth is, women remember the people who made them feel safe in their passion. The ones who didn't just tolerate their energy, but celebrated it. You don't have to understand every detail of what she's talking about. Maybe she's describing a book she loves, a cause she supports, a random childhood memory that shaped her. But if you can hold space for her excitement, if you can reflect back that it moved you, even a little, that's everything. You're not trying to impress her with your own knowledge. You're not redirecting the attention to yourself. You're staying with her, in her moment, and letting her know that her genuine expression has value. And that does something to a woman. It softens her defenses. It quiets the inner voice that tells her she has to be palatable or pleasing. It lets her just be. And that's the difference. Most people want the polished version of someone, the Instagram version, the carefully managed, emotionally controlled version. But when you show her that you're drawn to her when she's completely lost in what she loves, you rise above the noise. You tell her that her intensity isn't overwhelming, it's captivating, that her fire doesn't scare you. That's the kind of presence that makes a woman want to be around you. Not because you gave her a compliment, but because your words made her feel more connected to herself. You didn't take anything from her, you gave her something back. And in doing that, you built something most people never even think about. Emotional intimacy, the kind that stays long after the moment ends. So, when you say, I love how passionate you get when you talk about the things you care about, you're doing more than giving a compliment. You're giving her back a piece of herself she may have forgotten was even there. There's a kind of compliment that doesn't just catch her attention, it leaves a mark. Not because it flatters her ego, but because it acknowledges the silent work she puts in every single day. The work that most people benefit from, but rarely recognize. When you tell her, you make people around you feel at ease, like they can breathe again. You're not just saying something nice. You're putting words to something she's been doing quietly, naturally, and often without thanks. Because here's the truth. Many women carry emotional weight in ways most will never fully understand. She's the one checking in on everyone, making sure they're okay, picking up on the energy in the room, adjusting herself to protect the peace. She listens, she softens conflict, she becomes the anchor, the calm in the storm. And she doesn't do it to be praised, she does it because that's just who she is. But the cost of that emotional labor, it's often loneliness, the kind that comes from being strong for everyone else while wondering if anyone even notices her. So when you step forward and say, there's something about your presence that just makes people feel safe, it hits differently. It's not just a compliment, it's a moment of recognition. You've seen something in her that she gives effortlessly, something the world depends on but rarely thanks her for. And when a woman feels seen like that, when she realizes that you noticed the softness in her that others take for granted, that's when she starts to feel connected to you in a way she can't explain. Because in that moment, you become more than someone who just sees her beauty or her charm. You become someone who understands her value, the kind of value that doesn't fade with time or change with trends. It's the value of presence, of peace, of emotional grounding, the ability to walk into a room and instantly shift the atmosphere, not by being loud, but by simply being there. Most people are so focused on what a woman looks like or what she does for them that they completely miss the essence of how she does it. They notice the smile, but not the intention behind it. They hear the encouragement, but not the wisdom it took to offer it. They enjoy the comfort, but overlook the cost it took for her to become that safe place. So when you're the one who stops and says, you make people feel like they're okay just by being around you, you're not just setting yourself apart. You're giving her something she's probably never received, acknowledgement without condition. And the thing is, this type of compliment doesn't just touch her heart. It reaches the parts of her that have been giving and giving and giving, often in silence. Maybe she's the one her friends call when their world is falling apart. Maybe she's the quiet strength in her family. Maybe she's the one who holds space for others, even when she has no space left for herself. She might be carrying burdens you'll never see, but when you affirm that who she is brings peace, it reminds her that she's not invisible, that the energy she offers the world matters. You don't need grand gestures, you don't need rehearsed lines, you just need to be present enough to notice the things most people overlook. The calmness in her voice when things get tense, the way she anticipates people's needs without being asked, the gentleness with which she moves through the world, even when the world hasn't always been gentle with her. When you reflect that back to her, when you say, you make people feel like they can exhale, she doesn't just hear it, she feels it. And that feeling, that's what makes her fall. Because now you're not just another voice in the crowd. You're the one who sees the depth, the quiet power, the emotional grace. And when a woman feels emotionally safe in your presence, when she knows you respect what she brings into your world without her having to shout for attention, something beautiful happens. She lets you in. She softens, not because she has to, but because she wants to. So if you want to make a lasting impression, speak to what lasts. Speak to her impact, her energy, her presence. Remind her that what she brings into people's lives, comfort, ease, security, is not only rare, it's unforgettable. Because at the end of the day, the woman who helps everyone else breathe also deserves someone who reminds her she can exhale too. In the end, it's not the loudest man who captures her heart. It's the one who sees her clearly, speaks with intention, and touches parts of her soul no one else even thought to reach. Be that man, and she'll never forget you.